Well, U.S. President Donald Trump is wrapping up his visit to Qatar before continuing on to the United Arab Emirates, the final stop on his tour of Gulf countries. At a meeting with business leaders in Qatar's capital, Doha, Trump said his Gulf trip could raise up to $4 trillion in deals. Trump also spoke to U.S. troops at the Qatar Air Base, previously used by the U.S. military to carry out missions in Iraq and Afghanistan. Trump said he would never hesitate to use force to defend the U.S. and its partners. For more, we can now talk to Riccardo Alcaro. He is an analyst at Italy's Institute for International Affairs. He joins us from Rome. Tell us, what is your assessment of President Trump's visit to the Gulf states so far? What does it tell us about U.S. foreign policy?
Look, I think there are at least two things that are really striking in this trip. I mean, even knowing Trump, even knowing what his worldview is, it is striking to see that worldview put in place, into reality. The trip has been characterized by these two themes. One, business over geopolitics, although geopolitics was part of it. Business was the main driver. This was about making deals with countries that have massive cashes of flows of cashes that are available, and who have expressed the intention to use that cash to support American companies, or to make deals with American companies. And the second trend that is also very interesting is to see how Trump has this tendency to very much making the border between personal relations and institutional relations very much blurred. So you don't know where the relationship between the United States as a country with these Arab Gulf countries starts, and the relationship between Trump and his families with the dynasties in power in the Arab Gulf states start.
What about that's the business side you've talked about, though. What about the geopolitics of this? Is this really just purely about Trump, a business trip for Trump and his family, or is there really will there be some geopolitical changes coming about as a result of this?
It is mostly about business, but geopolitics sort of a function of that, because the corollary policy of an approach which is business-oriented is that geopolitical tensions should be contained, and de-escalation should be given priority over conflict and escalation. And this is extremely, this fits perfectly the landscape in the Gulf, because there is a simmering conflict with Iran over Iran's long-standing nuclear ambitions, which Trump has tried to, contain and de-escalate by starting negotiations with the Iranians over the nuclear program, a negotiation which just a few months ago didn't look very much likely, and now is starting to take shape and look more promising than most people feared, not least because the countries in the Arab Gulf countries' governments, contrary to what was the case 10 years ago when Obama struck his own nuclear deal with Iran, are now in favor of that deal. So there is a convergence of views between the Saudis, the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Omanis, and Trump towards finding some sort of solution, compromise with Iran over its nuclear program. But this is not yet a given. The path to the deal is still long.
Right. If you're still with us, Riccardo.
Also to add, the decision by Trump to lift sanctions on Syria and re-engage Syria, which is again something the Arab Gulf states wanted and which Trump sees as advantageous to the United States, something that other presidents would not have favored that easily, because they would have gone first through a consultation process with Israel, which is being sidelined in this trip, and this is also quite the novelty.
Ricardo, thank you very much for speaking with us. That was Ricardo Alcaro. He's an analyst with the think tank, the Italian think tank, the Institute for International Affairs.